Mom stopped at a store for a $20 charger, while my appendix burst. Please. Hospital. I begged before she locked me in. Now I'm taking her to court. My mom and stepdad have always disliked me because I look like her biggest enemy, my biological father. I didn't want to contact them when I felt a sharp ache in my lower right abdomen in arithmetic class. After my forehead burned, I had to SMS the family group chat. Were you skipping school? It took 25 minutes to get me. First thing my stepdad Greg asked as I got in the car. My sister turned up the aux before I could answer. Why are you here? Managed to ask. We were having a family bonding day, she beams. You interrupted? Mom sneered. My gut hurt sharply and explosively, like it was being scorched. Mom turned from the front seat, her eyes narrowing as usual when she stared at me. You better not do this for attention. My gray skin was saturated in constant sweat. Every driving bump fired electricity through my stomach. That caused me to vomit. Greg returned a grocery bag without looking, as if expecting it. My gosh, he lamented. Your father pulled this same dramatic BS. Haley's phone alerted her. Her phone had 4%. My phone is dying, she screamed. This was no ordinary upset. She had mastered calculated sobbing since age 6. Ethan will FaceTime me in 15 minutes and think I'm ignoring him. He'll invite that chemistry lady to homecoming instead of me. I could feel something inside me worsening every second. Hospital, I said, please. Mom and Greg looked at each other. I got the same expression when I begged to join the Disney family vacation. Same face as when I asked why Haley received a vehicle for her 15th birthday but got a $20 card. There's a Best Buy right there, Mom added, pointing to the right blue sign. We can quickly get her a portable charger. I assumed I misheard her. Despite agony and nausea, I lifted my head. What? It'll just take a second, she added, instructing Greg to go to bed. Please? No. Was barely spoken. A constricting sensation in my throat. Greg looked disgusted at me in the rearview mirror. Stop acting theatrical like your dad. 5 minutes isn't fatal. They acted immediately. Mom opened her door. Haley ran out, still crying for Ethan, and Greg locked the car with me inside like a dog. Pressure building up with nowhere to go replaced the searing agony. I felt it like a water balloon bursting inside me. No relief, only wrongness. Fire surged from my abdomen to my chest. I know what occurred. Your body informs you when something ruptures, even at 15 without medical training. I couldn't write ambulance numbers because my hand kept moving. I saw Mom comparing 2 chargers through the shop window. Haley examined phone cases. Greg checked his watch because the game started at 3:45, not because he worried about me. I blacked out after hearing the vehicle door open. Greg, breathing? Mom checked. Yes, Haley, but we must leave. I haven't charged my phone. I woke up in the ICU 2 days later. I heard my mom's false worry during parent-teacher conferences in the hallway through the pills. We rushed here the second we realized something was wrong, she said. We only stopped for 2 minutes because Haley has severe anxiety and needed pharmacy medication. The nurse devoured it. You poor things. It must have been terrifying. Greg spoke. We've been here daily, stayed with him. That's when I realized I had to achieve justice myself. I knew just how. In our family group chat, I typed, "Thank you for saving my life, Mom." I sent something different. My family wasn't informed. I found my bio-dad's number on Mom's old phone 5 months earlier and put it under a fake contact name in case. I typed with shaking fingers because the pain medicines were bringing me back down. I almost died because Mom wouldn't take me to the hospital. Now in ICU. Please assist. After sending, the message became blue before my eyelids grew too heavy to open. I dropped the phone on the blanket, and it went black again. The room was dark with one yellow light over the sink when I woke up. A man in dark blue scrubs worked the equipment next to my bed. His name tag said Lucas. He had nice eyes. Seeing me looking, he grinned. "You're awake. You feeling?" The majority asked that as a welcome without expecting a response. Lucas stood there waiting, staring at me like my response mattered. "Everything hurts," I murmured, my voice weak and hoarse. "And I'm afraid to return." His expression shifted immediately. Not shocked. More like it clicked. He brought up the chair next to my bed and sat at eye level. "Can I ask you any questions about that?" I nodded. Despite my constricted throat, I needed someone to know. "The hospital takes patient safety really seriously," Lucas whispered. "Could I arrange a social work consult for you to ensure your safety and needs are met?" Relief was so overwhelming I almost cried again. Someone cared enough to act. Yes, I said. Please. Lucas clasped my palm briefly before standing up and writing on his iPad. I'm requesting that now. Someone will visit you tomorrow morning. He examined my IV and changed something that eased my stomach pain. Try to rest. Need anything? I'll be here all night. I went asleep feeling safer than in years. The next morning, a woman with black hair and a bun entered my room with a tablet and a nice smile. She sat on the chair next to my bed with her badge reading, Angela Moore Social Services. Good morning, my name is Angela. The nursing staff asked me to come check on you and see how you're doing. Her pleasant professional voice made you feel like you could tell her anything. Can you describe what happened before you went to the hospital? Told her everything. About messaging the math class family group chat when the agony started. About my 25-minute delay for pickup. About Greg questioning whether I was skipping school. About Haley's phone dying and Mom stopping at Best Buy for a charger as I vomited in the back car. About locking me in the car while shopping. Concerning my appendix burst and unable to contact for aid. Angela remained calm and pleasant, but her fingers quickly scanned her tablet, taking notes on everything I said. She glanced up with gentle eyes as I finished. A medical staff documented your condition upon arrival. You suffered serious sepsis from a burst appendix, therefore treatment was delayed. She stopped before asking the crucial question. Would you feel comfortable returning home? Wanting to say no hurt more than my incision. But I also understood what happened to youngsters who thought home was unsafe. Perhaps foster care or forced family therapy, where Mom would blame me for everything. My last answer was, I don't know. Which was honest. Angela nodded like that explanation was enough. My assessment will include this information. Your medical team and I will choose the best course of action. She stood but left her card on my bedside table. If you need anything or remember something else to tell me, call that number anytime. I checked the time on my phone after she departed. I received a text from the school contact I'd registered as Dave, but it was actually my bio dad, Michael Carter. I'm driving 3 states there, but I'll be there tomorrow morning. Are you okay? Please confirm your safety. Before stopping, I cried. Someone who hardly knew me and who Mom had kept away from me my whole life was abandoning everything and driving all night to come to me. My mother probably watched cookery shows at home and complained about how I destroyed her week. I couldn't stop crying. Another nurse checked on me and inquired whether I was hurt. I shook my head because I couldn't explain that these were relief tears, the type that come when you realize you're not alone. Mom's phony nice tone with teachers and physicians made everyone think she was Mother of the Year, and I heard it in the corridor before I met her that afternoon. Unrecognizable rumblings came from Greg's deeper voice. Haley followed them in, always staring at her phone. Mom wore her worried parent expression, eyebrows pulled and lips down. But when she spotted Angela's business card on my bedside table, her face transformed. Her jaw tightened and eyes hardened. She read the card and stared at me with the attitude I knew too well. That I'd done something wrong by being. What's this about? Despite trying to appear casual, her voice was harsh. Greg looked annoyed as he crossed his arms behind her. I maintained a neutral expression in speech. Social workers are coordinating my discharge care to ensure I have what I need when I leave the hospital. It wasn't a lie, just incomplete. Greg clenched his teeth and a cheek muscle jerked. A nurse passed by looking into the room, so Mom couldn't react. Her grin seemed forced as she sat in Angela's chair. It's good of them, we just want to look after you. Haley never looked away from her phone. She stood at the entrance, thumbs scrolling, wishing she were anywhere else. I wondered whether Ethan contacted her for that FaceTime, or if she was unconcerned as I died in a parking lot. I didn't ask them to visit, but Dr. Robert Hayes came in the evening. The surgeon who operated on me was tall, gray at his temples, and had weary eyes from too many emergency cases. He looked at my computer chart and read about my recuperation, primarily to himself. His next statement froze the room. The surgical notes indicate your appendix ruptured at least 2.5 hours before you arrived at the hospital. He looked up from the TV, alternating between me and my parents. How long did you have symptoms before coming in? I'd been waiting for this since I woke up and heard Mom lie to the nurses in the corridor. I spoke clearly and calmly to ensure accuracy. I texted them from school when the pain started. It took 25 minutes to pick me up. I requested to go to the hospital, but we stopped at Best Buy for Haley's phone charger. They locked me in the car while shopping. My appendix ruptured. While I talked, I watched Mom's face lose color and return red and furious. Greg's hands were fists at his sides. Haley eventually looked up from her phone, wide-eyed. Dr. Hayes's eyes changed despite his placid demeanor. He spent a long time typing notes on my chart. Still typing, he replied, "I'll be coordinating with social services regarding your case." He went without telling my parents anything else. The deep, menacing stillness after he left seemed alive. Mom opened her lips to speak, but another nurse checked my vitals. Greg tugged Mom to the door, grumbling about coffee. Haley followed silently. She glanced at me before leaving. Her face changed briefly, maybe guilty or afraid. After she left, I was alone with the devices blaring, my heart racing, and the realization that I had started something irreversible. The machines beeped steadily as I counted the small holes in each ceiling tile square. My IV drugs made my body heavy, but my brain wouldn't shut down. Around 8:30 that night, Lucas returned to work and checked my vitals in my room. He softly adjusted items on the bed and wrote notes on his iPad. After finishing, he sat down in Angela's chair like he had something important to say. He said he had spoken to the other nurses and physicians, who had noted the delay in sending me to the hospital in my file. He stated the emergency hospital staff had documented my condition when I arrived, how terrible the infection was, how near I was to dying. His speech was calm and professional, but his eyes were sorrowful when he mentioned many people were worried about me. He said that in situations like mine, where a child was injured, the medical personnel recorded everything. My throat tightened when he spoke anything. He informed me I had people watching out for me and ensuring my safety. He stated that mattered more than I estimated. He softly squeezed my shoulder before returning to the nurse's station. I barely slept that night. While my appendix ruptured, I saw Mom comparing phone chargers every time I closed my eyes. I kept checking my phone for Michael's response, but nothing. I worried whether he would come or decide I wasn't worth the hassle, like Mom usually said. Morning arrived slowly, the sky outside my window changing black to gray to light blue. Around 6:30, a nurse handed me breakfast I couldn't eat since my stomach was still upset after surgery. While eating basic bread, I heard voices in the corridor and the door opened. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that was gray at the sides, he entered. His clothes were disheveled and he looked fatigued from driving all night. His face was like seeing at a mirror 20 years from now, same nose, jawline, and dark eyes Mom always complained made her sick. Standing inside the doorway he peered at me, his eyes watery. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and hugged me gingerly, avoiding the tubes and cables. Was I okay? His voice trembled as he asked, but I was weeping too hard to speak. He drew back to stare at me with quivering hands and a coffee and highway stench. He kept saying he was sorry he hadn't been there, sorry he hadn't recognized how horrible things were, sorry for wasting so much time. We chatted for about 2 hours. He moved the chair next to my bed and held my hand while explaining everything. He told me about how he and Mom met in college, how things went apart when I was born, and how she blamed him for everything wrong in her life. His claims that she had applied for full custody, that he was dangerous, and that he had injured her were unproven. He had monthly supervised visits after the court handed her custody. He was unaware when she relocated 3 states away. When he found out where we went, she filed paperwork alleging he abandoned me, and the new court revoked his rights. My chest felt like it was collapsing as he showed me 15-year financial statements on his phone. His monthly child support payments went through the state system, not to Mom. He sent money every month throughout my whole childhood, but Mom said he never paid. She bought Haley a vehicle with my money. She took family holidays and left me with food money. I knew my life was a lie after looking at those financial statements. He also showed me thousands of letters he sent to Mom wanting to see me. She never replied even once. He paid attorneys twice to get visitation privileges reinstated, but the courts wouldn't help without proof of the falsehoods. He stated discovering me was like recovering a lost part of himself. Angela returned mid-morning and requested a private meeting with Michael. After they went, I sat alone with my thoughts for 35 minutes that felt like hours. I occasionally heard their serious, hushed whispers in the corridor. Michael adjusted his stance as they returned. He stood taller, his jaw set determinedly, reminding me of how I felt when I told Dr. Hayes the truth. Angela sat down and calmly stated that she and Michael had examined my post-discharge housing possibilities. Her concerns regarding my medical treatment delay and my safety at home led her to propose that I not return to Mom's place straight soon. Michael agreed to stay in town, and she would make him my temporary guardian throughout rehabilitation. She mentioned home evaluation, CPS, and family court. They felt like bricks in my wall between Mom and me. Angela stated a CPS investigator would question everyone at Mom's residence, which would take time. She claimed she'd keep me safe till everything were straightened out, and I believed her. Michael gripped my hand again, and I held it fast. Mom visited me in the afternoon and discovered Michael close to my bed. I saw her face go through 5 expressions in 2 seconds: shock, rage, and that phony nice grin she adopted when others were looking. She asked him what he was doing in a pleasant voice that didn't match her gaze. Mom's phony smile crumbled as Michael stood up and announced he was seeing his kid. He had no rights and abandoned me, she yelled. How could he appear now? Michael maintained a steady tone when he said he had bank documents proving he had paid child support for 15 years. Mom yelled that he was a liar, that the courts had terminated his rights, and that she'd contact security, becoming crimson. 2 security guards arrived, but not to take Michael. They requested them to discuss matters in a separate conference room away from patients. Mom appeared ready to protest, but the guards weren't asking. I was alone with Greg and Haley after they whisked my parents away. The heavy hush was unpleasant. Without glancing at me, Greg crossed his arms at the window. Haley was constantly at the entrance, thumb scrolling on her phone, but she glanced up and we connected briefly. She apologized in a low voice. She said it without looking up from her phone, and I wasn't sure if she meant sorry for the Best Buy stop or 15 years of being treated like crap. Maybe both, maybe neither. Greg was silent. Michael slept at a nearby hotel and visited daily during approved hours for 2 days. The physicians attentively monitored my wound and blood testing to ensure infection clearance. After I woke up on the 3rd day, Dr. Hayes thought I was mending enough to go home. He gave me a long list of wound care recommendations, including keeping the incision clean and dry and checking for infection. He prescribed painkillers and antibiotics and restricted exercise to no hard lifting, running, leaping, or gym class for 3 weeks. He discussed diet, starting with modest, bland meals and expanding items steadily. Angela arrived with discharge papers and a plan. She had coordinated with Michael and the hospital's social workers. Instead of returning to Mom's house, I'll stay at Michael's motel. It was supposed to be about post-surgery care and recuperation supervision, but we all knew it was about keeping me away from Mom. Her reports used formal terms like appropriate assistance and medical monitoring. Angela said Mom would get copies of all the documentation and can object legally. This was the situation for now. Mom objected instantly and vehemently. She arrived when I was getting ready to depart and threatened legal action. She stated she would sue the hospital and contact the police because Michael had no custody rights. Michael remained cool as she shouted. When he explained that he had been paying child support for 15 years without visitation, that he had real worries about my safety, and that the hospital social workers' report backed his stance, his voice was steady and reasonable. He stated the medical data demonstrating the treatment delay was apparent, and she should consult her lawyer before threatening. Mom became purple and looked like she may hit him. Mom was advised to leave by a nurse before security intervened. Greg pushed her toward the door as she yelled about how this wasn't over, how she'd fight, and how I was tricked. Michael handed me clothing, and I saw my mother leave the hospital crying from the side of the bed. Haley followed them, staring at the floor. The hotel room Michael leased was simple but clean and quiet. 2 double beds with blue comforters, a little table by the window, and a wall-mounted TV. He had filled the little fridge with ginger ale, crackers and plain bread that morning, which Angela thought would be easy on my stomach. He propped cushions behind me and made me comfy on the bed closest to the restroom. He set up my meds on the nightstand using his phone's alarm system and dosage reminders. He gave me the remote and told me to watch whatever on TV. We watched a culinary competition we didn't care about, but it didn't matter. What mattered was his asking me every 20 minutes whether I needed anything, was in pain, or was hungry. What mattered was his getting up to buy me more ginger ale without asking. What mattered was how he adjusted my pillows as I moved around to become comfortable. I was treated like a person for the first time in 15 years. I fell asleep that afternoon feeling safer than ever at home. Dylan brought a backpack full of schoolwork and school gossip that night. Dylan was worried seeing my father for the first time, but Michael welcomed him in and they shook hands. In bed with my laptop, I tried to catch up on English class reading. Dylan placed his backpack on the other bed and began bringing out folders and papers to explain what I missed in each lesson. He paused mid-sentence and looked at Michael, who was adjusting my pillows again. Dylan opened his eyes and leaned closer, whispering. He inquired whether this was my dad, seeming surprised and even relieved. Dylan's face grins broadly when I nod. He suggested it was time I get lucky. Michael smiled and offered Dylan pizza for supper, asking what toppings he preferred. They got pizza while I ate boring meals for 2 hours. Dylan kept me updated on school drama and presented the situation like it was normal. Like having my bio dad suddenly in my life wasn't odd. His relaxed acceptance made things more genuine and less threatening. Angela advised me to log my rehabilitation. She suggested it would assist if I had questions regarding my care later. I wrote down everything Michael did to examine my incision twice a day for redness, swelling or infection over the following several days. How he never allowed me miss a dosage of my prescriptions, even if I felt good. Because the doctor ordered it, Dad gave me tiny bland meals that were dull. How he repeatedly inquired how I was feeling, if I needed anything, and if the pain was worsening. He did my washing at the hotel laundromat and bought me new clothing because Mom only brought what Mom packed. To avoid falling behind in school, I videotaped him putting up a tutoring program and finding the finest follow-up physicians. Michael treated me like my health, safety and future mattered in every diary writing. The dramatic contrast to my life before hurt almost as much as the procedure. Rereading those posts, I saw precisely what Angela intended me to see. The distinction between neglect and true parenting, expressed in my own words that no one could dispute. A big letter addressed to Michael arrived at the hotel a week later. He opened it at the little desk as I did schoolwork on my bed, and his jaw tightened as he read. Mom's lawyer wrote a formal demand letter that I return home immediately, alleging Michael had no legal right to retain me. That afternoon, Michael called 3 times. His lawyer sought hospital copies of my medical records, urged Angela to prepare a report regarding her worries, and filed an emergency custody adjustment petition with the family court. 2 days later, another letter arrived. A court seal was on it. The court scheduled a 10-day interim hearing to determine where I should reside until the whole custody issue was decided. Michael handed me the letter and asked whether I wanted to sue my mother. I looked over his logbook, pill bottles and little fridge full of safe meals for my mending stomach. Then I looked at him and answered, yes. Michael drove me to my former school for the first time 2 weeks following surgery. I fatigued sooner and my incision pulled when I moved improperly. I struggled to focus in history class by 3rd period. My instructor wrote to the counselor about my dozing off. I'd never met Rachel Parker. She had a cozy couch instead of rough plastic chairs in her office at the front door with plants around. She served me water and inquired how I was feeling when I sat down. I told her I was okay and catching up on studies. She looked at me patiently and said she'd heard from my teacher about my falling asleep and knew I'd been hospitalized. Her non-judgmental question helped everything flood out. While dying in the back seat, I informed her about the appendix rupture and Best Buy stop. I told her about waking up in the ICU and hearing Mom lie to the nurses. I told her about Michael and how I felt safer than ever with him at that motel. I told her about the custody struggle and how afraid I was that the court would send me back to Mom's. Rachel listened without interruption. When I finished talking, she paused. She stated that she was a required reporter, meaning she had to report child abuse or neglect to the authorities. She requested permission to write down what I said and put it in the court case. I agreed immediately. Rachel rang Angela the same day. Angela texted Michael that evening, stating school officials backing up her worries was beneficial. I was further certain when a counselor from my school confirmed my negligence. Rachel also booked me several lodgings. I had additional time on all my projects till I recovered. I was allowed to leave class and visit the nurse if I was hurt. I had a permit to arrive late to 1st period if I required morning rest. After printing and giving me copies, she forwarded the same information to my professors. For the first time, school seemed like it cared about me. Someone knocked on the hotel door one day a week later, when I was doing schoolwork. Michael went grocery shopping. I spotted Haley in the hallway via the peephole. She looked awful. She never wore makeup and had an untidy ponytail. After I opened the door, she waited there for a moment before requesting to come in. She looked at her hands while we sat on separate beds. She then revealed she had been thinking about the Best Buy stop every day since it happened. She wept over her phone charging and saw me becoming gray in the back seat. She stated she realized I might have died while looking at phone cases. She asked me whether I hated her with burning eyes. No idea how to respond. One part of me wanted to say yes and make her feel as horrible as I had felt my whole life, but another part recognized she was 16 and had been reared by parents who taught her issues mattered more than mine. He told Haley I was mad at her for being selfish, Mom for disliking me, and Greg for treating me like garbage. However, I told her I knew she was simply a child from a bad situation. I stated Mom and Greg had taught her she was more important than me my whole life. Naturally, she believed it. Not entirely her fault. Haley cried, but not her typical pretend tears. Real tears made her cheeks blotchy and nose flow. If it helped my cause, she claimed she would speak the truth. She said she would testify about the Best Buy trip and how Mom and Greg always treated me differently. I nodded because I didn't trust myself to speak. Michael accompanied me back to Dr. Hayes a few days later. Walking into the hospital, where I almost died, made my stomach tighten, but Dr. Hayes was courteous about inspecting my incision. He noted it was healing well without infection. His face altered as he had me step on a scale. He inquired about my pre-surgery weight. After I informed him, he recorded in my chart that I was underweight for my height and age. His additional inspections included checking my skin and nails and inquiring about my sleep. He claimed I had chronic stress and malnutrition. He put this to my medical file and said it will be in court records. Michael inquired what to do, and Dr. Hayes suggested a food plan and vitamins. He planned another 5-week appointment. CPS investigators visited Mom's residence on Tuesday afternoons. I know because Haley texted me immediately. The lady investigator interrogated each family member individually in different rooms. First she called Mom, then Greg, then Haley. Haley claimed the investigator queried my hospitalization day in detail. She inquired how long they stopped at Best Buy. She questioned whether they noticed my bad illness. She inquired how Mom and Greg handled me versus Haley. She heard everything from Haley. She detailed the Best Buy stop, including how they went shopping while I was heaving up in the car. She said I got a $20 birthday card while she got a vehicle. Mom and Greg treated me like a burden and made her the favorite, she said. The investigator noted everything. Her report arrived a week later. It claimed medical carelessness may have killed me. A pattern of emotional abuse and discriminatory treatment was found. It advised me to avoid Mom's residence. First time after leaving the hospital, Mom phoned me personally. Her name appeared on the screen when my phone rang as Michael and I watched TV. My palm shook in response. Her voice shook, but not with grief. She was mad. She stated I was ruining the family and turning Haley against her. She stated I was selfish and manipulative like my father. She called me ungrateful after everything she did for me. She warned me I would regret this when the court saw through my falsehoods and ordered me home. I said nothing. Just hung up and blocked her number. Michael inquired about my health. Though I wasn't, I nodded. Next morning, Greg texted me. He apologized for not defending me in a long message. He said he didn't know how awful things were. He stated he should have taken me to the hospital instead of Best Buy. He thought I would forgive him. Michael read over my shoulder as I viewed the message. He snorted and continued, "Adults don't get credit for ignoring child abuse." He added, "Greg had 15 years to notice how they treated you and chose not to care until there were legal consequences." Not responding to the message, I erased it and put my phone aside. The custody hearing 4 weeks later took place in an old wood and floor cleaner smelling courthouse. Mom, Greg and their lawyer sat on the right, while Michael and I sat at a table on the left. Haley waited in the corridor to testify. Judge was a lady with tight gray hair and chained reading spectacles. She gazed at me as Michael's lawyer called my name, and I stumbled to the witness stand. I still pulled my incision when I moved swiftly. I recounted everything that happened the day I went to the hospital to the lawyer. The shooting agony in math class, texting the family group chat, waiting 25 minutes for pickup, vomiting up in the car, and requesting hospitalization. Mom and Greg decided to stop at Best Buy instead, putting me in the car while they bought a phone charger, feeling my appendix explode while I watched them compare items through the store window, blacking out, and waking up in the ICU 2 days later. I explained to the lawyer how my family treated me compared to Haley, including the Disney vacation I wasn't invited to, the car Haley got for her 15th birthday while I got a $20 card, how Mom always looked at me like I disgusted her, and how Greg called me dramatic when I was sick or hurt. A judge took notes and asked if I felt comfortable with Michael. I agreed without hesitation. She asked if I wanted to visit Mom, but I declined. Mom's lawyer attempted to make me sound exaggerated, but my medical records showed how unwell I was. When I stepped down, my legs shook so much I had to steady myself. Haley went next and cried before the lawyer asked her a question. She detailed their Best Buy stop, including how I was vomiting up, how my complexion looked gray, how I asked them to go immediately to the hospital, how Mom stated it would take a second to grab a charger, and how long they remained there. Haley said yes when the lawyer inquired if our parents treated us differently. She talked about obtaining a vehicle while I didn't, family trips I wasn't on, and how Mom and Greg constantly made me feel like a burden while she was the favorite. She said they mistreated me because I looked like Michael, whom Mom loathed. Though she was crying, I could see Mom looking at her from across the courtroom with a gaze that would have made Haley feel terrible. But Haley continued talking. She regretted not speaking out sooner and stated she should have phoned an ambulance that day. After she finished, Mom's counsel tried to portray Haley as a theatrical adolescent, but the court seemed unconvinced. Dr. Hayes testified post-lunch. He brought my medical paperwork and detailed my situation in the emergency room. Critical sepsis from a burst appendix, extreme dehydration, dangerously high temperature, decreasing blood pressure. He warned that another 25 minutes may have been deadly. The lawyer told me my appendix ruptured at least 2.5 hours before I went to the hospital, based on the infection. He recounted my emergency operation and 2-day coma. He then discussed therapy delay effects. He claimed pausing for a phone charger when a child has a medical emergency was irresponsible against my safety. Mom's counsel said they didn't realize how bad it was, but Dr. Hayes refuted that. He said that I was vomiting, sweating, gray, and in tremendous agony. He remarked, "Any reasonable adult would have gone straight to the hospital." The court inquired if the wait was medically justified, and Dr. Hayes answered, "Absolutely not." Angela testified next with a hefty packet of documents. She said hospital personnel had raised concerns about my family's conduct throughout my ICU stay, how Mom and Greg lied about being there regularly when they only came twice, how they lied about the drugstore stop, and how I feared coming home. She contrasted Mom's housekeeping with Michael's care throughout my rehabilitation. Michael followed physician orders exactly. He examined my wound twice a day, made sure I took my prescriptions on time, kept extensive notes of my symptoms and healing progress, and took me to every follow. "I gained weight and my stress indicators improved since leaving Mom's place," she stated. Angela stated that I had suffered medical negligence that risked my life and continuous emotional abuse through differential treatment when the lawyer questioned about her professional evaluation. She advised me to avoid Mom's place. Mom's lawyer came up and said this was one mistake, an isolated episode of bad judgment under stress, not a pattern of maltreatment. Michael's lawyer presented medical data showing I was underweight and malnourished, school counselor reports concerning my worsening health, social work proof of unequal treatment, and Haley's testimony about years of favoritism. The judge calmly scrutinized everything for what seemed like ages. Then she spoke. Her evidence showed persistent negligence, and the Best Buy event was merely the most prominent example. Michael received 5 months of interim custody with supervised visits for Mom. She prescribed family treatment for Mom, Greg, and Haley, and individual therapy for me. In 5 months, another hearing would evaluate the issue. Mom sprang up quickly, making her chair scrape the floor. She left without looking at me, and Greg followed. Haley sat for a moment, appearing confused, then slowly stood up. Michael massaged my shoulder, and I realized I was weeping, relief crying. Michael and I went 3 states to his place that weekend with my belongings in his car. The trip took 5.5 hours, including 2 lunch and restroom stops. I spotted a tiny 3-bedroom home with white exterior and a wide yard when we drew into the driveway. Michael took me to the 3rd bedroom down the corridor. I stood gaping as he opened the door. A new bed with a blue comforter, a desk with a light and a cup of pens, a bookcase against one wall, window curtains, and a rug were there. Everything was new, clean and customized for me. I had never been accommodated like that way. I cried again, and Michael comforted me. "This is your room," he said. "Decorate as you choose. Take ownership." I couldn't speak. My head nodded on his shoulder. Starting at a new school 5 weeks into the semester felt strange. Everyone had friends and inside jokes, and I was simply the anonymous new kid in October. I didn't care. I was so pleased to leave my old life that the discomfort didn't matter. Dylan texted me daily and sent me images of our former school. He promised a spring break visit. My professors understood my condition well. Since the principal knew I was recovering from major surgery and dealing with a family issue, they provided me assignment extensions and allowed me leave class. Few inquiries were asked. I started therapy my 2nd week at my new school. Michael found a family trauma counselor. Her downtown office featured nice seats and Kleenex on every table. I told her my tale as requested. All of it. My years of being ignored, appendix rupture, visit Best Buy, everything. She listened without interrupting and uttered something powerful. She claimed my mother's problems with Michael were never my responsibility, that I shouldn't be penalized for looking like him, and that my neglect constituted abuse, even if it wasn't physical. Her weekly sessions helped me handle anger and hurt. It was laborious. I felt worse after certain sessions. But eventually, I felt less furious and more at peace, like maybe I could go ahead instead of remaining in the horrible years. Michael also enrolled us in family therapy. His goal was to develop a true friendship after missing my youth. Every other week we saw a parent-child counselor. We discussed why he and Mom split up, how she wouldn't allow him see me, and how he paid child support for 15 years without seeing me. He gave me court paperwork from when I was little, when Mom always denied his visiting requests. His greatest regret was not working harder to go through the legal system so he could be in my life. As a child, I thought he didn't want me. How Mom always said he left us. How I believed her falsehoods for 15 years. That session brought tears to us both. Our counselor advised us to lament the connection we should have had while establishing the one we could have. It wouldn't be ideal. Since Michael missed my childhood, we were strangers. He tried. Really tried. And that mattered more than I could say. Michael asked if I wanted to meet his parents, my grandparents, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Mom informed me Michael's family didn't want anything to do with me. Before thinking, I said yes. This Thanksgiving morning, they drove from 2.5 hours away. When they arrived into the driveway, I observed an older couple exit a blue vehicle from the window. Before reaching the front door, my grandma, with gray hair and glasses, cried. My grandfather was tall like Michael and me, and had silver-edged black hair. Michael answered the door and my grandma hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. She repeated my name and touched my face to verify my identity. Shaking hands, my grandfather hugged me next. My grandma pulled photo albums from her canvas bag as soon as they entered. She put them on the coffee table and showed Michael his childhood photos. The likeness was crazy. Same eyes, same grin, hands in pockets, same position. She showed me Michael at my age. We could have been twins. My granddad continued pointing out features like our cowlicks and crooked pinky fingers. They asked me about school and my interests, and listened. My grandma sobbed again during supper and apologized for not knowing me. She revealed that Mom barred all their post-divorce communication with me. Years of birthday cards and Christmas presents were returned. They sought legal visitation, but Mom's lawyer blocked it. My granddad blushed as he described my appendix. Why no one had phoned the police or filed charges intrigued him. Michael stressed that the legal procedure was difficult and that my safety was paramount. My grandma wished she had known sooner to help. She said to call her whenever I needed anything. My grandfather gave me $200 to buy anything I wanted before they departed that night. Grandmother embraced me again and promised Christmas visit. Haley phoned early December. Her name appeared on my phone and I nearly didn't respond, but something made me. Her voice was less bratty and more fatigued when she wanted to chat. She stated she started therapy after everything and was working through Mom and Greg issues. We spoke for nearly an hour. I tried to forget how Mom would prepare her favorite meals but tell me we were out of food, how she received new school clothing while I wore last year's, and how they took her to the movies but left me home. She assumed that was usual since it always was. Her therapist helped her realize that wasn't okay, that she'd been trained to value me less and had accepted it without question. She sobbed on the phone and apologized for the Best Buy stop, for not speaking up in the car while I was dying and for putting her phone above my life. I was unsure what to say. I refused to forgive Mom and Greg, I told Haley. Though I may never be, I didn't dislike her. She grew up in my messed up house, but from the other side. She got favoritism and I got neglect, and we both suffered. She stated she understood and didn't expect immediate forgiveness. She told me she wanted to attend college distant from home. She applied to out-of-state institutions for scholarships. After seeing that, she couldn't stay in that house. This 5-month custody review was planned for late March. Michael let me see my therapist's progress report. Since leaving Mom's place, I was more open in sessions, less guarded, slept better, and ate frequently. She remarked that I had gained 10 pounds and reduced my tension since moving in with Michael. Dr. Hayes supplied updated medical documents confirming my surgery site had healed properly and my health markers had improved significantly. I had normal blood pressure. I no longer had persistent headaches. Michael's lawyer compiled a massive dossier of evidence. Stable living with my own bedroom. Flawless school attendance since moving. Report cards showing my grades went from C's and D's to A's and B's. My grandparents, therapist and school counselor wrote letters. Photos of my room and residence. Bank statements confirming Michael's stable salary and 15 years of child support. A list of all medical and therapy appointments since moving in. Mom's lawyer had less at hand. Her therapist's report was basic despite her therapy sessions. It said that she was processing custody but provided no insight into her actions. She did not apologize for the Best Buy stop. The hearing was held on a frigid late March Tuesday morning. Michael took us to the courthouse where my grandparents greeted us in the parking lot. I sat at a courtroom table with Michael and his lawyer. Lawyer and Mom sat across the aisle. Greg attended but Haley did not. Short gray hair and reading spectacles characterized the judge in her 50s. First, she carefully read all provided documents and reports. She requested testimony. Michael's lawyer phoned first. I pledged to tell the truth on the witness stand. Compared to the interim hearing, I felt more assured and sure. My lawyer asked about my living condition with Michael. I told them I decorated my room myself. Michael made sure I ate 3 meals a day, had clean clothing, and arrived to school on time. He brought me to all my medical and therapy appointments. He assisted me with schoolwork and inquired about my day. I felt protected there. The lawyer questioned about my health, and I answered I'd gained weight and stopped getting migraines. That I slept through the night without nightmares. I was instructed immediately by the court to return to my mother's residence. I eyed her and said no. I said, honestly, I don't know, when she inquired if I would see Mom. Maybe later, but not now. Mom's lawyer asked me about missing my family and old school, but I said I was happier, healthier, and safer here. The judge reviewed everything during a 15-minute recess. Her choice was announced when she returned. Michael received complete legal and physical custody. At 15, my tastes mattered. And I was prospering in his care, she added. Mom had downplayed her neglect, which made her worry it could happen again. The medical evidence of delayed therapy worried her. She stated I could visit Mom whenever I wanted, but not pressured. If she continued therapy and improved, Mom may request supervised visitation. I must stay with Michael forever for now. Mom stood up and left before the judge finished talking, becoming crimson. Greg sat, staring at the floor. Michael gripped my shoulder while my grandparents cried happy tears behind us. The lawyer congratulated Michael and shook his hand. We departed after signing documents. Mom missed the judge signing the custody order at the conclusion of the hearing. Just sent her lawyer. Greg was in the back row but didn't look or talk to me. Haley texted me after court. She claimed Mom was weeping at home and blaming Michael, the attorneys, the judge, and everyone but herself. Mom continued alleging Michael's relatives poisoned me and turned me against her. Haley attempted to convince Mom that taking me to the hospital that day would have prevented this, but she didn't listen. I replied that Haley shouldn't have had to deal with it. It wasn't her duty to show Mom reality. Haley counted down the days till heading to college. Reading her texts made me sad but not guilty. Mom chose this. All of it. My years of being ignored. Visit Best Buy. They deceive healthcare workers, not taking accountability. She could have changed this any time, but she didn't. Dylan spent 4 days in April during spring break. Dylan hugged me big in the parking lot when Michael brought him up from the bus terminal. He continued observing everything like a note-taker. Michael brought us to a theme park the first day, where we rode every roller coaster twice. Dylan commented that I seemed more comfortable, smiling, and laughing. He stated I usually appeared stiff and fatigued at our former school, like I was waiting for something horrible to happen. Now I looked like a fun-loving adolescent, he added. We spent the second day at home playing video games and eating pizza. My grandparents visited Dylan for supper. Afterward, he said I was blessed to have them and that having grown-ups care about me was nice. We saw movies and wandered downtown on day 3. Dylan talked about events at our former school, which seemed like hearing about a life I no longer lived. Dylan sat in my room on the last day before leaving and said he was delighted things turned out since he had worried about me for years but couldn't help. I told him messaging me daily after surgery and visiting the hospital meant more than he realized. Having one kind individual made a big impact. We pledged to remain in touch when Michael drove Dylan to the bus station. I was sad to see him go, but largely glad. Happy to have a true buddy. I appreciate Michael and my grandparents. I'm glad I left that house before it wrecked me. After the custody case, I reevaluated my report card. My grades had improved from C's and D's to B's with a few A's. The school counselor contacted me one day and opened a college search website. In response to her question regarding my major, I realized I had never considered it previously because college seemed to happen to others. We spent an hour examining programs and scholarship deadlines at colleges within an hour of Michael's residence. She printed 9 options and said we'd work on applications together in the autumn. The Rachel Parker email arrived Tuesday morning before school. She stated that she was delighted the court case left me safe. She told me she had discussed my scenario in a district-wide training on family neglect and student reports. My chest shifted after reading it. My worst experience might assist another youngster. I replied, thanking her for trusting me when it counted. Late May brought summer, and I needed to do something other than hang around at Michael's. Despite my lack of work experience, he helped me write a resume. Downtown bookstores posted help wanted signs. The manager hired me immediately to handle the register and refill shelves 4 days a week. College kids on summer break were my coworkers. I joined their movie evenings and park hangouts. I made acquaintances with folks who didn't know my background unless I told them. Early June saw Haley's graduation. She sent me a cap and gown shot of herself between Mom and Greg. She then wrote that she had been admitted to a public institution 7 hours from home. That night, her phone voice was lighter. She wanted to see Michael and me before college started in August. I agreed without asking since I knew he wouldn't object. The mid-June letter arrived from Mom's lawyer. It was official and specifically requested that we meet for coffee with a therapist to foster dialogue. Michael handed it to me without explanation and said I could choose. I pondered it for 3 days before discussing it in therapy. My therapist asked what I wanted from visiting Mom, but I couldn't respond. I replied through Michael's lawyer that I wasn't ready and might never be. Haley arrived on a late July Saturday with 2 bags and a worried smile. Michael greeted her like a visitor and shook her hand at the entrance. I cooked sandwiches in the kitchen while they sat in the living room. I overheard the custody debate. Haley's voice broke when she apologized for years of Mom's mistreatment. Michael informed her she wasn't responsible for her parents' actions since she was a youngster. Haley's eyes were red as I brought the meal out, but she seemed calmer than in months. Campout occurred in August's second week. After packing tents and sleeping bags into his vehicle, Michael drove us 2.5 hours north to meet my grandparents at a state park. Camping beside a lake, we hiked and swam for 2 days. My grandpa told Michael's boyhood memories over the campfire the second night. He told me, "I got my stubborn streak from both sides of the family." He then looked at me seriously and explained that stubbornness saved my life since I refused to ignore Mom's negligence. My grandma clasped my hand and said she wishes she had known about me sooner, but was glad for each day. Senior year began Tuesday following Labor Day. I entered school with confidence for the first time. My calendar was full of classes I picked, not Haley's. My instructors sent college recommendation letters when I made the honor roll first quarter. My therapist observed the shift in October. She claimed I had improved well in the last year and asked if I wanted to limit our appointments to every other week. I agreed since I was pleased most days, not simply surviving. Late September, Haley called from her dorm. She stated college was harder than high school, but better since nobody knew her as Mom's beautiful kid. She started visiting a campus therapist twice weekly. She then asked if we could be actual siblings without our parents' problems. I told her we could try and mend it. She said enough for now. College admission letters arrived in March. I got into 3 neighboring institutions with good financial aid. One scholarship gave me enough money to take out minor loans. I placed the letters on the kitchen table at home. Michael read each one attentively, making his eyes wet. After missing so much of my history, Dad was proud of me and grateful to be part of my future. After choosing the institution with the best financial assistance, we traveled there the next weekend to explore and pay my admission deposit. I felt good about my enrollment form choice when I hit submit. Michael posted the admission letter on the fridge with my last report card. My grandparents contacted that night to offer college assistance. They deposited money into Michael's book and supply account. The next weekend we drove to furniture stores to look for mini fridges and desk lights. Michael created a phone list of everything I needed and ticked it off as we loaded everything into his pickup. Because dark blue and gray bedding felt more grown-up than Mom's cartoon sheets, I chose it. We stopped for burgers on the way home after 5.5 hours of shopping. Michael inquired whether I was apprehensive about college. I said I was excited. He grinned and said it should feel that way. Graduation was a late May Saturday. Wake up early and put on the cap and gown that had been in my closet for 2 weeks. Michael took me to school and met my grandparents in the parking lot. Haley arrived 20 minutes later, exhausted from driving. Dylan found us in the crowd and gave me a fist bump before sitting with his family. I sat on folding chairs on the football field with my class for the 9:30 ceremony. After being summoned, I crossed the stage and shook the principal's hand. Dylan yelled from the bleachers as Michael stood up to take photographs. Never invited Mom and Greg, so they weren't there. It didn't bother me. Today belongs to those who supported me. After the ceremony, we took photographs by the school sign and had steakhouse lunch. My grandma kept stroking my arm to verify my identity. A bookshop near Michael's house employed me on the Monday following graduation for summer. I stocked books and ran the register for 38 hours a week. I watched my college account amount climb every 2 weeks as paychecks rolled in. Weekend habits seemed natural for Michael and me. We ordered pizza and watched movies on the couch on Fridays. Sunday mornings, he cooked chocolate chip pancakes, which we ate while reading the newspaper. Most evenings, we walked his dog around the neighborhood. Simple things were more meaningful than large gestures because they were constant and authentic. Moving day was a sweltering August morning. During my final room inspection, Michael carried things into his vehicle. We drove 40 minutes to university and parked outside my dorm. It took 3 visits to get everything to my second-floor room. Michael helped me put the bed and desk beside the window. He looked around from the doorway after unpacking. He hugged me and apologized for missing so many years, but welcomed each new day. I said he saved my life by visiting that hospital. Both knew it was true. I finally had a family and a promising future.